Thorofan presents the Great Lasix Debate.
Howdy again, everybody. This is Doc with Thorofan coming to you with the latest and most up-to-date information that we have right now on the whole Lasix debate that has been going on for, probably decades now. But, a lot of talk right now is just trying to get away from any kind of race day medication in thoroughbred horses. And so there were two very interesting studies that were recently published in peer-reviewed journals that came out in the last couple of months. And they both looked at seeing if you could get the same effect of mitigating the severity of exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage, or EIPH, giving Lasix at 4 hours, as we currently do before a race, and stretching that out to 24 hours before a race while controlling the amount of water the horse has in that time frame. And basically, both of these studies looked at a whole bunch of different parameters. They looked at both endoscopic scores, as we've talked about, so basically looking down into the lung and trachea area with an endoscope to actually visibly see blood, and then grading it, of course, on those scales, as well as what's known as bronchoalveolar lavage, where they actually go in and they insert some fluid into a very, very small air passageway in the lungs known as bronchioles, and all the way down into the alveoli, and then they remove that fluid and then look at the number of red blood cells that they see in that fluid. The BALs, as we call them, at least from a scientific standpoint, are the more accurate, I guess is the best term, way of determining if true EIPH is occurring as compared to just the endoscopic score. So still a little bit of debate in there, but what was really interesting in these studies, one was done at UC Davis out in California, one was done Washington State University, is they looked at, like I said, a whole bunch of different parameters, and they actually looked at some of these bleeding issues, both in horses that were shown to be bleeders previously and horses that were shown not to be bleeders previously. Now, again, they were very small subsets of horses. It's very hard to do large-scale studies on this without a lot of funding and a lot of logistics to really kind of make all this work. And I am going to put at the end of this video, of course, the link to something that kind of summarizes these two papers and where you can get the citations on them and all of that. But what they did find, which was very interesting, was that there may actually be evidence that doing 24-hour out Lasix with what we call controlled water intake from there on in up to about 4 hours prior to the race might actually be better at helping bleeders that have been known bleeders to lessen the effect and the incidence of bleeding in those horses as compared to the 4-hour Lasix. Now, again, it's not 100% conclusive. We are looking at a very small subset, but it is a very interesting finding that they found, and certainly something that needs more research and more studies targeted specifically at this specific area. But it is something that's very, very interesting, as I said, and may actually be a blueprint for certain jurisdictions to maybe try that as a thing, and let's see what happens in real-life racing conditions, where instead of 4 hours out, you adjust the regulatory rules a little bit, and you go to a 24-hour time frame or something like that. Another thing that I wanted a lot of people to realize when it comes to Lasix, and of course the whole thing is, does Lasix cause water loss? Yes. Is it to the extent that everybody says? Kind of depends on who you talk to about that. But what's more important in that is it's not the dehydration effect that is mitigating the EIPH, because with other diuretics such as spironolactone or a couple of others that they've tried, they don't get the same mitigation effect. So there is something about specifically furosemide that causes that decrease in the pulmonary vasculature, as we've talked about previously, that leads to EIPH and bleeding. Figure out exactly what that component is, and you probably actually could create a drug that has the mitigating effects, but without the water loss and the weight loss that they consider, as well as some other things, potentially performance enhancing. So I did want to make everybody at least a little bit aware of this and what was going on. Again, I am going to put the citations there, and it may be the first step that horsemen are willing to take in trying to get us out of this race day medication dilemma that we are kind of in, especially in the US and Canada right now. So I am Doc for Thorofan. If you want to read the studies on the papers, the citations are certainly in the link that I'm going to provide. Form your own opinion, and definitely start asking some more questions, and let's start looking for some more funding for a lot of these research things to move forward, and hopefully we can get away from race day medication, which will be better for the horse, better for the sport, better for the public, just better all around. And if we can get to that 24-hour window, that may be a start. I'm Doc for Thorofan, and if anything is going on in the racing industry and you want to get accurate answers, the only place to turn to is right here at Thorofan.